Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Destiny from Desphixs and welcome back to another video in the e-commerce project using Django. In this one, we'll get started working with the cart page and also deleting and updating items from carts. That is what we'll be doing. Hopefully we enjoy the video and learn something new. So let's get started. So the very first thing you need to do is to open up your code editor. And for now, you need to come over to the store and view PY. And remember, in the last one, we worked with the add to cart. So in this one, we'll start off by defining a new cart function, and this will take in request as a parameter in here. And the very first thing we want to do in terms of the logic is check if cart ID exists in the session. If it doesn't exist, we return cart ID as none, so that we don't have an error when cart ID does not exist. Okay, for now, go ahead and stop your server while we write out all the functions that we'll be needing. So I'm going to say if cart ID, remember that that's what we called it when we were saving it in the previous video. We want to check if this exists in requests.session. Then what do we want to do? Let's go ahead and say define a variable called cart ID and set it to the cart ID that exists in the session. Cart ID. Please, if you're going to use single quotes, use single quotes. If you want to use double quotes, you use double quotes, okay? But don't mix the both together. Not like anything is going to break. So I'm going to say cart ID should be none. Now, cart ID is going to be none if there is no cart ID stored in the session. Very good. So after you've done this, go ahead and fetch all the items related to a particular users based on the cart ID related to a particular user based on the cart ID that exists in the session. So I'll say items should be equal to store model dot store, that should be dot product dot objects dot filter. Okay, I think I missed something. There should be carts. Okay, carts.objects.filter, and we want to filter it by cart ID should be cart ID. And apart from that, we also want to filter for when the user is logged in. Remember that I said in the previous tutorials that we will be building a mobile application also for this e-commerce, and when a user logs in with their mobile phone, we want them to be able to retrieve all the cart items that were stored in the database for that particular user. So when we start writing APIs for the e-commerce, you'll see how that works. But for now, go ahead and use the queue object to pass in cart ID equal to cart ID, or if cart ID does not exist, try getting the user by the request.user. Okay, so it will try to do this. If this does not exist, it will try to run this. Okay, very good. Now that you've done that, let's go ahead and fetch addresses related to a particular user. So I'm going to say try addresses should be equal to none, except, then I'll say addresses again should be equal to none. Now you might be like, okay, why am I setting none in two different places? That's because I want to firstly import it. So say from customer imports models as customer underscore models. Good. So after that, you can then take the customer model and get back to this section here. Then say customer models dot address dot objects dot filter by user should be equal to the logged in user. So get all the addresses that the current logged in user has created and linked to their profile. That is basically what this is doing. So after getting the addresses, we want to check if not items, which means items does not exist. Let's say messages dot warning, and over here I'm going to pass in request, then show an alert that will say no items in cart. And coupled with that, I also want to redirect them back to the store index. So we need to import messages and redirect at the top. Over here at the top, say from Django.contrib import messages, and also you need to import redirects alongside the render. So over here, we import redirect. So after importing those two things, you should see that we shouldn't get the warning messages anymore. Now let's create a context dictionary to pass in all these informations that we have compiled. So I'll say items key should be passed to the items value. And there's one more thing I think I missed. Let's create the cat subtotal. So over here, I will say cat underscore sub underscore total should be equal to store models dot cat dot objects dot filter by cat ID. Exactly the same thing. So please, you could go ahead and copy this if you don't want to type it out again. Paste. But the only difference is that we need to aggregate now. So aggregate, create a variable here called subtotal and set this to models.sum, sum of the subtotal. Then you need to return this. Whenever you call this cat subtotal, it will return this number over here in something like a dictionary. So if you want to grab only the subtotal without it being in a dictionary, go ahead and put it here just like this. So go ahead, take the subtotal, then out here create a new list and just paste what you copied in. Okay, why it starts not okay, there you go. Very good. So after you have done that, that's everything that we want to do. Now, let me explain this. What we did over here was fetch the cat item for a particular logged in user. And what we did over here was pretty much sum up all the subtotal fields of all the cat item that belongs to that particular user using this sum function over here. Now, let's go ahead and return this in here. I'm going to return the cat subtotal here and return its value. Very good. And we need to also return addresses. So take addresses and return it over there too. Yeah, that is everything that I want. Now we could go ahead and create a template. So say return render. Then we'll pass a request in here and also the name of the template. So I want the templates to be called store/cat.html. And don't forget to pass in the context. Good. So now let's create the next function, which will be called delete cat item. This should basically take the request as a parameter. And then I want to firstly get the ID that the front end will send to us. So grab this from the get requests. So remember how we did this when we're adding to cart? It's exactly the same thing. We also need to grab the item ID from the get request. So get item ID. Very good. And then we also need the cat ID. Request.get cat ID. All right, that's it. So when you have done this to now, the only thing we need to do is go ahead and validate required fields. So you can manually do this if you want, but since we have more than one field over here that we are getting from the front end, I will highly recommend that you actually just do this, or automate it in a way. So if a field is missing, like the ID or the item ID or the cat ID, if the front end isn't sending any of these fields and they are required, we need a way to return a message back to the front end telling them, hey, an item is required. So I initially wanted to do this the longer way, but let's just do it the easier way. So you could just say if not ID and not item ID and not cat ID, then you could just go ahead and return JSON response back to the front end. And the key should be error. The value should be items or product ID not found. Send off. Then you could return a status. So status is a way that the front end could use to know what type of error we are getting. So if it's a 400, that means it's a bad request. If it's a 403, that means it's forbidden. If it's 404, that means it's not found. If it's 200, that means it's okay. If it's 201, that means it's created. If it's 500, that means it's internal server error. If it's 302, that means it's a redirection error. So there are a lot of them. You could just Google it and, you know, see how all this status codes works. All right. Now that we have checked if no ID exists, let's go ahead and fetch the particular product ID that was given to us from the front end. So we will say store models dot products dot objects dot get the product where status is published and ID is ID. Very good. But what if this particular product does not exist? Let's return an error. It does not exist error. Say product dot does not exist. Then you could go ahead and return a custom message back to the front end. You could say error, and over here you could just say products not found. Then this time around, the status code that we need to return will have to be 400. So status should be 404 rather, not 400, which is a not found error. So after this, we need to check if the item is already in the cart. So before you delete an item, it only makes sense that you check if it exists in the cart before you delete it. If an item does not exist in the cart and for some weird reason the user is passing in the item ID to be deleted, which means they must be trying to manipulate the URL from the browser. So we need to make those checks in our backend to know what's happening. So fetch a particular item. Item should be equal to store models dot cart dot objects. That should be objects dot get. And then what do we want to do over here? Just say product should be equal to products. Very good. And ID should be equal to the item ID that was passed to us from the front end. Now go ahead and delete it. Say item dot delete. So initially I wanted to check if item exists before we delete. So if you want to check for that, you could just say if item exists, then go ahead and delete. But if item does not exist, this will return an error for us. So that makes this almost not needed. So you could just pass it over here, leaving us with fewer lines of code. So now let's go ahead and count the total number of items in the cart by saying total cart items. This should be equal to store models dot cart dot objects dot filter by, you know what, it's almost looks like this one. So let's still copy it and paste, not have to type it all out again from beginning. So that's it for the total cart items. Now the next one is going to be the cart subtotal. So if you don't want to type all that out, you could still copy this one from over here and just paste it down here, and that should still work for us. Okay. And when you have done this, remember that when we want to return something to a Django template, we return it in the context. But when you want to return something as a response for something that looks like an API like this, then you need to return it in a JSON response. Okay, not a render function. So I'm gonna say return. Initially we will say return render, right? But this time around it needs to be JSON response. That's what we've been doing throughout the tutorial. And JSON response doesn't take an array over there, rather it takes dictionaries like this. And then you need to pass in the message that says item deleted. Very good. And you need to pass in the next one, which is going to be the total cart items, which is still going to be the total cart items. And I want to go ahead and simplify things by immediately counting it. And lastly, I'm going to return this one, cart subtotal. I think what I'm about to do right now is something that I already have, so I could go ahead and grab it. Just hold on, let me see. I think it's something I've created in the past. You know what? I don't want to confuse anyone, so let's just go ahead and type it out. There you go. So cart subtotal should be, then I'm gonna open up a string and open up this parenthesis in there and create placeholders. This, give a comma, then say .2f. So these are placeholders that we could then go ahead and fill using, okay, this is just like a text formatting, okay? And by the way, just so you know guys, I'm creating a full Django crash course to explain a lot of things that a lot of people find very confusing in Django, especially for someone that isn't a beginner anymore but can really understand some little basic things. So in the upcoming weeks or months, a Django crash course will be dropping. We won't be building one simple project. We will just go over everything that Django has to offer, how to use all Django functions, tools, and everything. Then at the end of the course or the tutorial, we will then go ahead and build a fully functional project. Maybe we could build something like a shop, or we could build a blog or WhatsApp clone or anything in the crash course, just so you understand. Okay, so I just wanted to let you guys know that. Over here, I'm going to pass in format, which means I'm trying to format the way we will be representing this. So what do we pass in here? Pass in the cart subtotal that we fetched earlier. And then I'm going to say if cart subtotal else 0.00. So what this piece of code over here is going to do is this. I've explained it before. If you have a string of, or let's say you have a number that looks like this for the cart subtotal, what I will do is it will start formatting this number for you. And to put a comma over here, to put a comma over here, to put a comma over here, bringing this to about 78 billion. Okay, so that's basically what this will do. Very good. So this is everything that I want for now. Let's go ahead and configure its URL. So to configure the URLs, go ahead and open up the urls.py, and just down here, I will start off by configuring the cart. Do the same thing here, and also do the same thing here, and same for the delete cart item. Do the same thing here and here. So with that, we are done. Now we need to work on the front end, and we should be done. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the template section, store, and over here, I'm going to create a new template called cart.html. Very good. And now that we have done all this, let's go ahead and spin up our server, run server. And I'm not really sure I have alerts configured. Just to confirm, open up your base HTML and look for the block contents. There you go. Can you see? I don't have alerts configured. So if you want to create alert, it's quite simple. Just say for message in messages, for message in messages, then you could check if message exists. So if message, then you could go ahead and create a new div. This should be class alert dash, and for this one you just need to say message dot tag. Very good. And over here you could create a strong tag. Strong tag like this, and in there is where you then need to put the message. Whoops. In here put the message. Okay, so now that you have done this and your server is running, go ahead, open up your browser, and then you could reload this page. There you go, that's working. So we need to configure this button over here to go to the cart, and to be able to do that, you want to open up the base. I think we're already here, and search for the shopping cart. There you go, shopping carts. Now this href over here should go to URL store cart. We have two shopping carts URLs, so please look for the next one, which is this one here, and replace this hash with the link. And when you reload this page, you can now click on this, and we should, okay. So this error is actually quite explanatory. I already know where this is coming from. Hop back to the cart, I initially thought that this was going to happen, but then I wanted to confirm if it will or not. So can you see over here, please hold on, let me locate the cat here. Over here where we're writing this code, this has a flaw in it. So it will actually try to fetch this or this. But you can see that a user is not logged in. So it's saying that field ID expected a number but got this simple lazy object. So whenever you see this error, it means that you're trying to access a particular route that's supposed to be restricted only to logged in users. So what we can say is search for a user if request.user.is authenticated, else let's search with this. Okay, I wanted to pass in none, but I don't think that will really work. So if a user does not exist, search with only the cat ID, which means a user is not logged in, right? Yeah. Now go ahead and rerun your server. So this is basically the logic that we need for this kind of functionality. Then now let's see. All right, we still seem to be getting the same issue. Let's see, I believe we have this in more than one place here in our cart. Let's see where else we might have it. Yeah, we also have it in line 98. So come over to line 98, which is this one here. Yeah, I knew we had it in more than one place. So over here, you could do the same thing that we did just down here. You could copy this. In line 97, you could copy this. So this is what I was looking for. And come over to line 98, which is just the one below, and paste what you copied. Very good. And now you can allow your code to rerun. Don't bother about this one. It will try to fetch this address. If it doesn't exist, it will just return none. Okay? But I think we've got a problem for ourselves now, because I have two of this all. Please remove one of it to have only one. And now let's try this out again. Okay, that has been fixed, but now we have this cat subtotal issue. Cat subtotal. Here it was called subtotal. Here it was called subtotal, which means here should be subtotal. It's saying, hey, I can't find any variable defined as cat subtotal. So that was our issue. I think this should be fixed now. There you go, it's working. So we are now in the cart page. Very good. It's not redirecting us back to the home page because we'll have an item in the cart. Okay. So all we need to do is bring in the cart template. So come over to the Z-raw template and open up the cart HTML, and you could copy everything that we have in here. Or you could just take this to section and I think I just removed the cart. Take that to section and put it down here. Very good. Then remember the extents that we have been using. So you need to bring that in also, which is basically, let me show you, this and this. So take these two, come over to the cart and paste it at the top, but just take this one and bring it down here. Good. Then we reload this page. Good. Can you see? This is what we have. So now let's go ahead and change up the informations. If you open up your views, what did we use to store the items? It's items. So get back to the cart and look for the section where we are looping through items. There should be an image div row. Okay, this is it here. This is one item. This is one item. So minimize all these different items and remove all of them just to have only one. Let's see. Boom, just one. So now you need to run a for loop. Just say for I in items, and that is where you then need to paste this one. I hope you're following along. Let me close this off so you have more space to work with. So after saying for I in items, then you paste this down here. Very good. So just like we did when we were working with listing the products onto the index HTML, it's exactly the same thing. What we're trying to do now is list out all the items that we already have in the database onto the carts page. And we have already defined this items query set in the some minutes ago in the views py function. All we just need to do now is go ahead and use it to bring in all the items that we have in the database, retrieve it, passing an object or the particular instance of item to this I over here, or you could even call it item. Then start changing up the defaults or the dummy datas. For example, this image, instead of that, will now be item dot products dot image dot url. The iPhone 13 Pro Max will now be item dot products dot title, and the price will be item dot price. Item dot price, because the other item model has its own price field. The vendor is going to be item dot product dot vendor dot profile dot full name. So that's a lot of chaining, but yeah, it works. And over here, this should be item dot price. Okay, my bad, that should be item dot price. And for this one over here, it's gonna be just a little bit tricky, but don't worry, we'll work with it in the upcoming video. And in fact, you don't even really need to do much things over here, since we already have the function for adding to carts. All we just need to do is create new functions in our JavaScript for changing the quantity of the item. Then we'll make a call back to the add to carts function. Don't worry, you will see how it works. Okay, so don't stress yourself out for now. You will see how it works. Okay, this one here is going to be items dot subtotal. For now, leave the updating, we'll work with that later. Items dot subtotal. Very good. Okay, so I think that is everything that we have for now. Let's see how it looks over here. Go ahead, reload this page, and now you can see it brings in all the items. Only products is missing, because it's supposed to be products.name and not .title. So now you should see your products coming here very well. Okay, that's it. Now the next thing on my list is to work with addresses. So I'm gonna get back to my code editor and look for the addresses section, which is this one here. The for loop starts from here, this cool Excel. So just minimize the other three and remove them, leaving only one. Then you want to go ahead and loop through the addresses that we fetched in the views function. So you're going to say for address in addresses, then you want to go ahead and paste this one down here. Very good. And fix indentation. I like doing that so that my code looks clean. And then over here, you can start changing up everything that is a dummy data. For example, you could say address dot full underscore name, and then you could say address dot email, address dot email, and then you could say address dot mobile here, address dot mobile. In fact, you could go ahead and copy this if you don't want to have to type out all this. So now I'm gonna paste this one here, paste here, here, and also here. Then we can start changing them all up. This is going to be country, this is going to be state, this is obviously city, this is the address itself, and that should be it. Okay, so the only thing I want you to do is alongside this address one here, remove it and say address.id. Very good. And also pass in a value over here, and for that one say address.id, and I think we should be done. Name is showing gender there. Please change that. Here, change this to, let's call it address. Okay, and this is a radio button. Okay, I think everything looks good here. So after changing up all this, now let's test it out. We're not going to see anything, obviously. So let's create a new address and see what we have. For now, we will create addresses from the admin. In the future, we'll allow customers to create their own addresses by themselves. Okay. So I want to log in using destiny@gmail.com. For customer address, add a new address, and then I'm going to put this as Destiny's own, and this also should be Destiny ranks mobile. Let me fill all those ones in like this. Good. Then you can go ahead and save this, and then let's try this out again. Now, can you see one address is now showing up over here? We can select this address. Good. So we have this, and this is the only thing that we don't have yet. Let's go ahead and fix the order summary. So for order summary, we don't even really need to do anything much. Just scroll all the way to the bottom and change the subtotal to say cat. That should be cat underscore sub underscore total. Now this exact same thing is also what you want to do over here for the total. I will explain why later. Okay, and just one more thing that you need to do is, instead of just pasting this down here like that, I will recommend that you create a new span for it. Span. Because of the USD sign over there, it's finding it difficult to auto create the span for us, but now it's working. Okay, so you had to bring it out of the USD sign. And for the span, I'm just going to give it a class of cat underscore sub underscore total. So this is what we'll use to automatically change the cat subtotal in the future. Don't worry, you'll see how this will work. So over here now, see 2200, 2200. Well, I don't really like how this is looking. Can't we have a comma show up over there? Of course we can. And to do that, you need to pass in this int comma filter. Okay, now this will perfectly, filter the text for you. But yeah, I knew this is gonna happen. This is telling us that we don't have a filter called humanize. So load humanize, and not just loading that, you also need to check if it exists in the settings py. You can see it doesn't exist here. So you could go ahead and duplicate any of this and say django.contrib.humanize. Very good. Our server should spin up now. They're good. So you can get back here and reload this page, and that's working. Now, can you see we have a comma here and a comma here? Do the same thing for those ones so that it gives them appropriate commas. So back to the index store. I will locate the item price and also give it an int comma. And same thing also goes for the item subtotal. Very good. All right, guys. So after this, that's basically everything that we want to do. Now let's work with updating cart and deleting from items too, and deleting items from cart too, because we initially set up the function to do this. So this will take a bit of a setup, but let's start it. This is the button to trash an icon. Sorry, this is the button to delete an item. That's what I was supposed to say. It's btn danger, text white, btn sm rounded. Just give it another class here called delete cart item, just like that, and give it a data attribute called item id. So this is the way we know, this is the way we use to grab the particular item that we are clicking on. So say item.id, and also give it another one so we know what particular product the item belongs to. Okay, so over here you need to say data product underscore ID, and what should I need to pass in there is item dot product dot ID. Very good. That's everything that we want to do. So now that you have done that for trashing the items, let's also do the same thing for the minus and plus buttons. Alongside the btn sm, say update underscore cat underscore qty. Very good. Now the same thing should also be applied to the plus one, but we had things will then changes for the data attributes. So create a new data attribute, call this one update type should be equal to increase. Don't worry, you see how we use JavaScript to work on all this. Same thing needs to go for this. So same thing, data update type, instead of increase, this one is going to be decrease. Very good. And just two more things that we need would be the data item, just like we had over here. You could copy it if you don't want to type it all out, and paste. Paste. Good. So that is everything that we need for now. And also for the inputs, before I forget, let's change up some things for the value. Instead of 3 over here, I want to say item.qty. And also I would like to give it a class so that we will be able to target it from JavaScript. So give it the first class item.qty dash item.id. And you might be asking, why am I even passing in this items.id here like this? That is because we are in a loop, and for you to be able to detect what inputs to increase its price or to reduce its price, you need to know what item ID we have. And the way that you can use to identify that is by grabbing the item ID and using it in whatever script you're using. In this case, you're using JavaScript. Okay. So when you have done all this, that is it. That's everything that we want to do. So start off by opening up the functions.js. You can minimize this if you want. This is what we wrote in the previous tutorials. And now I'm going to create a new one. Whoops. That should be document dot on click. That should be dots. Okay. Dots on click off. So as soon as we click on any button that is called delete cart item, and it's a class because we passed in dots over here, and this is actually the button in case you've forgotten. So as soon as you click on this trash icon in the functions.js, what do we want to do? So as soon as you click on that, that has given us access to everything that we want. All we just need to do now is create function. No need to give it a name, just like this is okay. And then you need to go ahead and grab the button element by saying const button el should be equal to this. So it pretty much means that whatever button we click on, grab that button's element. That is what this exactly does. Then from there, you could go ahead and grab things like the item ID, the product ID, and also the cart ID. So you could say const item ID should be equal to button L dot attributes, and you want to grab the data dash item ID. Please, it's data dash dot data equal to. So same thing goes for product underscore ID. That should be product ID, not product IF. So here we have that, and also same thing for cart ID. So const cart ID should be equal to generate cart ID. Good. You don't need to manually pass that in from the HTML. The generate cart ID function already handles when a cart ID exists or when it doesn't exist, and it's very efficient. So we can rely on that. All right. So now let's go ahead and use Ajax to make a call to the API to actually delete an item. So I will say dots. That should be dot Ajax. And the very first thing is the URL. What is the URL? It's called delete cart item. In case you've forgotten, let me show you. This is it over here. Delete cart item. Good. And we also need to pass in data that the backend server is expecting. So the backend server is expecting ID. Remember that product ID. It's also expecting two more things, one being the item ID and another being the cart ID. So you need to take these two things that it's expecting and basically supply it over there. And before send, I think I already have this somewhere here. I will just grab this one. I don't want to have to retype all this again. In fact, I will grab everything here, both the success and the before send. I don't want to type out everything again and just paste it down there. So before send, instead of showing this add to cart text, I just want to show the spinning icon. And when everything goes to return response.message, still success. But just one thing that you want to do now is populate some things. So when you delete an item from cart, it only makes sense to recalculate the subtotal and remove it from over here, right? And also remove it from over here in the cart items, right? So to do that, what we need to do is this. Come over to the cart HTML, locate the loop for the item. Then you see this div here. I want you to give this div a class. Give it a class that is called item underscore div underscore then item.id. Very perfect. So now in your functions.js, when everything goes through, remove this. There's no need for that. Make sure that total cart items is equal to response.total cart items still. And you also want to go ahead and remove the products from the div in the template. So for that one, you will say dot item underscore div underscore. Then out here, you could then say plus item ID. Very good. Then we go ahead and hide. So one cool way that you could use to hide is just add a class of display none, which is a bootstrap class, and it will go ahead and automatically hide it for you. Now another thing is the cart subtotal. So remember this remember the subtotal section that we had down here where we created the span and added the class of cart subtotal. Now we want to exactly make use of that. And to do that, you could just duplicate this one just like that. Grab the cart subtotal, come over to the functions and replace this with this and replace this with this. Good. So response.cart subtotal, response.total cart items, we returned all those over here. See? Response.item, response.cart subtotal. Very good. Let me see the deletes. Yeah, total cart items, cart subtotal. Good. So I knew something was off when I was making reference to this part of the code. It is this one over here. We are returning the total cart items and also the cart subtotal. Very, very, very good. So with all that out of the way, let's get back here and reload our page. You can see that we've got 3 items over here now. I'm going to go ahead and click on this. It spins and nothing happens. Let's see what's going on. Oh, okay. Views PY line 133. Over here we had subtotal, but instead here we have cart subtotal. So please go ahead and change that and our error should be fixed. Wait for your server to reload. Get back here, click on it again. Okay, yeah, we have another issue. It says cart match query does not. That is because it has already been deleted. So reload your page. You can see it's already been deleted. So click on this again. See, item deleted, but it's not removing it from here. Why is that happening? Let's check our function.js again. .add class dnone. Okay, this looks good and it's actually supposed to work. But what's going on? You know what I will do? I will open up my console and I will also give my page a very hard refresh. Give it a hard refresh, Control-Shift-R or Command-Shift-R if you're on a Mac. Okay, you can see that that has now been refreshed. You could go ahead and try removing this again. Good, but we didn't remove anything. Unknown parameter, show confirmation button. Could that be Y? Show confirmation button false. Okay, he doesn't know what this is, but I don't think that should be causing the issue, guys. That shouldn't be causing the issue. So one thing that I could say is happening is we might have a mismatch over here where we are looping through the items. So back to where we had the items. What was going on here? See, it's supposed to be item underscore div underscore, but then we had an issue. So that's what was causing the problem of the items not being deleted from the cart. So back to the functions.js. Let's get back here, and I'm gonna get back to my home page and try to add some items to my cart again. I'll add this and this. Good, our add to cart function is working perfectly well. And now we should see 2 items in the cart. You could go ahead and remove this. Good, it's gone. Then this one shows 1 item over here. Very good, that is all working as expected. It also recalculates it in our order summary, and everything is looking very good. Okay, so the next thing will be to go ahead and actually work with the updating. I'm going to close this up right now. And we can see only 1 item here, but when I click on this, I want to increase this to 2 and automatically updates the cart without reloading the page. Without doing anything, I'm gonna make an asynchronous call to the API or to the back end. We reload, we actually update the cart, and then we send the response back to the front end, which the front end will then use to check if the back end has actually been updated before it updates its front end UI interface. All right, so let's quickly do this and we should be done. I will open up my code editor, get back to the functions.js, and I'm going to minimize this for now and also minimize this one for now. And just above here, I want to have exactly this same kind of function. So if you want, you could copy this, paste, copy this one here, paste. So if you don't want to have to type all this out again, okay, all you need to do is make sure that you're changing this one to update underscore cart underscore qty. Good. So now when you have done this, you need to get the button el, which is exactly what we did over here. So you could get the same thing, button el, and you could get product id from the button el, but also get item id from the button el, and also same thing for the cart id. Good. And the only thing that we're not getting from here is the update type. So to get the update type, I'm going to duplicate one of this and change this to update type. Remember, we created all this when we were working with the HTML. So this one is going to be data update type, and also quantity. Yeah. So quantity is going to be, it's not going to be anything related to that. It's just going to be const qty would be equal to $, then I want to grab dot item dash qty dash, and then we say item id. Good. And since it's an input, go ahead and grab its value. That should be like that. Good. So if you open up cart.html and scroll all the way to where we have the input, you can see this item quantity thing that we created. That is exactly what we are using to grab its value over here. Okay, and after you have done that, now let's go ahead and check if update type is increased. Then we increase the item that is in the quantity. If it's reduced, we go ahead and do the same thing, we reduce. So that's quite simple. Just say if update type is equal to increase, then exactly what we want to do is say, you know what, you could even grab this, still grab this, okay? But I don't need this anymore. Just say $items.qty dash item id dot val. But inside this val, instead of leaving it empty, you want to say pass int, which is convert whatever we're going to type here to an integer. So we want to convert the quantity that we're getting to an integer, and then we just want to +1. Good, it's increased. Okay, so +1. And not only that, you are changing this, also updates the quantity variable there. So say qty++. Good. So now when you have done this, the else is going to be a little bit longer than this one, because I firstly want to check if, then let's convert that to integer. So if pass int, so if passed int of quantity, which means if quantity integer, is less than or equal to 1, then what do we want to do? You could go ahead and say, let me take this. I don't want to keep retyping everything and repeating myself. So in here in the val, please just pass in 1 over there. Now what this will do is it will check if the input field quantity is less than 1, which means it shouldn't be less than 1. A user cannot order a quantity of 0 items. Always make sure that it is never less than 1, but at least 1. So as soon as it notices that, hey, it's less than 1, which means a user has pressed it one more time, even after they have gotten to the 1 item, then we automatically force the input back to 1. We don't even need the user to do that for us. We do that automatically and programmatically. So we force that back to 1. Okay. So after you have done that, then you could go ahead and say quantity should be equal to 1. This quantity here is us just updating this quantity variable here, which we will then use to update the cart by making a call to the API. Don't worry yourself, you will see all this in action in a few minutes. Over here we say else, and I need exactly just the same thing here. In fact, this 2, and this one is going to be quantity minus minus. This one is going to be quantity minus 1. Very good. So when you have done these 2 things, that's everything that we want to do. Wait a minute. Whoops, I think I have been working in the cart items, which is something I don't want to do. My bad. Uh-oh, this is something I wasn't supposed to be doing. But then I'm going to take everything here and let's undo. Hopefully you saw this before me. I was working in the wrong place. I just undid everything, okay? Just so you know, I copied it and it's currently in my clipboard, so I'm not actually undoing what I have done initially. So after all that, you can see that now we've gotten back here. Just paste what I copied. And please give this a lot of space so that we don't make a mistake and get back in there anymore. Okay, so after you have done all this, just below the if statement somewhere here, we then need to make a call back to the add to cart. So if you want to make things a little bit easier, you could even just go to the top to where we have the add to cart and grab this. So you see this Ajax, just do yourself some favor and grab that. You don't want to type it all out again and just paste it down here. Very good. And let's change up a couple of things. We need the ID. ID this time around is going to be the product ID. Quantity should remain quantity. Size removes that. Remove color. Just stick with cart ID and cart ID. Very good. So for this one, instead of saying adding to cart, I just want to show the spinning icon. Okay. Then in the success, yeah, we still return response.message, which means cart updated. And one thing that you could then check is, you know what? Based on the fact that as soon as we click on this button, it will start spinning, right? When this item has been updated, it will keep spinning instead of it to return back to this plus icon so a user can re-update. So what we now need to do now is check. You could, let me see. This is cart subtotal and total cart items. For now, just leave this the way they are, okay? You know what? Even just remove it. Just remove it. I don't need it for now. But what I want to check is this. If update type is equal to, if it's equal to increase, then what do we want to do? Say button L dot HTML should go back to the plus icon, else it should go back to the minus icon. Very, very good. So when we have done these 2 things, we just need to update the item subtotal and the cart subtotal. So for the cart subtotal, I think something might be missing, guys. Hold on, let me get back to my views PY and search for item underscore sub. See, once you search for item subtotal, nothing exists. So let's firstly create the item subtotal. Open up your views PY and go to the add to cart again. Here, add to cart. You see this one that is the existing cart item. Oh, this is it here. But I called it items subtotal instead of item subtotal. Let me see where I used that. See, I never used it anywhere actually. You could change it back to item subtotal and say existing cart item dot subtotal. If existing cart item exists, else just show the cart dot subtotal. Very, very, very good. So now with this, we could confidently say, hey, as soon as an item gets updated, we want you to update the item subtotal underscore. Don't worry, I will create this so you see how it works. Item ID, update this with text of response dot this. So what I did over here was just conditional chaining. Only if response exists, that's when I want to show this. Mainly used in React.js, but you can still remove that and stick to this. Okay. And now that is it. The only thing that I think we still have missing is the cart subtotal. So cart underscore sub underscore total should be, let's see what we called it. Yeah, we called it cart subtotal in the add to cart. Should still be cart subtotal. Very, 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 very good. So with all that, now we have come to the end. Now refresh this page again. Good. Now when you click on this, okay, it just shows 2, shows 3, shows 1, and it's working, but it's not updating anything. It's not even showing us any message or anything of that nature. So let's see what's going on. So when we click on this, all right, it's returning an error for us. It says assignments to constant. Oh, okay, that makes sense. So what constant variable are we assigning to? Quantity comes to mind, right? Get back to the code, get back to functions, and here change this to var or let. Good. So now when you click on this, oh, please reload the page. I forgot that. So when you click on this, okay, it says no ID, no quantity, no that. Very good. That is exactly what I wanted. So it says error, no ID, quantity, or cart ID. No ID, quantity, or cart ID. So why is this error coming up now? Let's see. We created data here, right? We're making a call back to cart ID. So I have actually looked at our code and everything looks very good. I think we should just give this a hard refresh. Please give it a hard refresh. Most of the time, it's actually just a syncing issue that's occurring. But well, it seems like it's not a syncing issue after all. It seems like we have an API, yeah, which is this one. This. You can see that we are returning quantity as 2, cart ID as this, and something is missing. What of the ID itself? ID seems to be missing. Oh, okay, this exists in the update cart quantity. Please, let's check what we have there. Do we have, oh, that is the problem. See, we just have data item ID. We don't have data product ID. So you see this data product ID here. You also need the same thing to be here for this to work. Okay. So when you've done that, reload this page. Let's see. Click on this. There you go. Cart updated. Click on this. There you go. Cart updated. Now let me close this up and let's see it's this in full page. For cart updated. There you go. Now this is working perfectly well. Okay, the only thing that's missing is that it's not updating the subtotal, and it's not also updating it over here. So I think something is off. Yeah, something is off. So let's look for this is the cart subtotal here, right? How is it managing this in the functions? In the success function, You're supposed to update .cat subtotal. Please remove the items thing. It's not supposed to be there. And also we are printing response so that we see exactly what we are getting. Okay, please view your console. Let's see exactly what we are getting. Okay, can you see we return the total cat items now? We return the item subtotal of 2,400 and the cat subtotal of 2,400. So this is supposed to be updating, but why is it not updating? Let's refresh our page one more time and click on this. See, it's showing 2,000 for now, but when you click on this again, now this one is updating. Can you see 3,006, 4,008? That one is updating very well. Only what's not updating is this one. So let's see what's wrong. Do we? Okay, yeah, I think I know what's happening. We do not have item subtotal here in the cards store. So you see this tax here, please turn the tax to 0.00. Okay, even shipping to please turn it to 0.00. I'll show you guys how to do all that later. Now in the items where we are making the call, see this item subtotal, please add it over here too. Or you could even create its own span for it if you don't want to mix things up, and say class item subtotal, then say item.id, and then you could take this and just put it in its span, and that should be good, and you should be good to go. And also the same thing should happen for the cat subtotal in the order summary. So here in the order summary, see the same thing that we had over here, the same thing. Yeah, go ahead and copy it. Copy this and paste it here. Now let's try this out one more time. Reload your page, and when you click on this, okay, cart exceeded current stock. Very good, that's working as expected. Now can you see that when there is an error, okay, please hold on, let me reload my page. I accidentally highlighted everything on the page. Can you see that when there is an error, it just keeps reloading instead of it to like reset? So that is, it's actually nice that we caught that now. In the functions JS, over here where we are checking with the update type, do the exact same thing in the error. So once there is an error, go ahead and update this too. So reload the page again, click on this, error occurs, it goes back. Very good. Very good. So now when you click on the minus, can you see it updates this and it also updates this? It updates this, and it updates this also. Now 2004, now 1002. Now it cannot go below that. And you can also delete this item. Very good. That is pretty much it, guys. In this video, we've been able to work with the cart page, updating cart and also deleting cart items. In the next video, we should work with creating an order by selecting addresses, processing, or rather compiling other objects in the server, and we will be able to create a new order. And from the upper videos, we'll start working with payments methods and all that. That is basically it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it and learned something new. If there is something that's confusing, if there is something that you don't understand, let me know in the comment section below and I'll be there to help you. If you're looking to get a source code to follow along with the project, link is in the description below. Also consider checking out Desphixs.io. We are building a lot of cool tools and features for you to learn how to program faster and more efficiently. Hop over to Desphixs.io, drop your email to be one of the insiders as soon as we launch. That is going to be it. I hope to see you in the next video, and until then, mad love, peace out.